Hi everyone, Rebecca Jones here, Tibby Connect Liaison. Thanks so much for sharing again your lunchtime with us today. We will be continuing our four-part leadership series 2020 presented by Chad Q. Brown of Profile. And today's topic will be understanding motivators. And we will continue our dive into the coveted assessments. Thanks to our series sponsor, Duke Energy. Duke Energy is one of the largest electric power holding companies in the United States and is transforming their customers' experience, modernizing their energy grid, generating cleaner energy, and expanding their natural gas infrastructure to create a smarter energy future. Duke Energy understands the value of supporting young professionals in their career paths, and you can visit dukeenergy.com/our-company/careers for information on their career opportunities. Just a quick Zoom refresher, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat box sent to all panelists and all attendees, or use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window. Thank you, Chad, for being with us today, and we are excited to continue our learning to be better leaders.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tippy Connect. I think everybody can hear me. I'm just making sure all the audio and visual are working here. It's good to see you, or kind of see everybody. I'm going to share my screen, so give me one more second here to make sure you guys can see my screen. And I've brought one of our good friends of mine, and our director of coaching and training, Shaylin Johnson, is with us today. She's going to help us with a couple exercises. And now I figured out what I did wrong. There we go. All right, so what I'd like everybody to do is pull out your reports. If you guys remember, we have, you guys all should have your reports. Shaylin would have been the one to mail those to you. And this is what it looks like, if you can remember a while back. I'm always going to address, as I mentioned last time, 3 different groups. Some of you that have been up with us every time, forgive the redundancy. Some of you that maybe were at the first session, maybe missed the second session, but still have your report. So if you have that report, we would like you to pull that out. And then some of you may be new. And I want to do a little recap for you guys as well. But everyone, as we check, should have their profile assessment, which includes the 3 assessment battery that our company hangs our hat on. It's what we utilize in our consulting and team building leadership training, which is the DISC assessment, which many of you are familiar with. And we continue to coach and teach and train on that assessment because we believe in its power. But to reiterate, we also think that DISC has holes in it. And DISC is that model that's behavior, it's personality profiling, but it's really how somebody acts in a given environment and also how someone can change in a given environment. And we're actually going to dive into that a little bit today. But this is what a report looks like. Bailey, if you're on this message, forgive me for putting you out in front of everybody. But I want everyone to look at their letters here today. Pay attention to these 2 letters. And notice how Bailey's, she's a DI and an ID. And there's a little bit of change with her. And last time we talked in the Q&A session, it was really good. We had a lot of great questions. We want to do that again today. But people asked about the natural and adaptive graphs. And so I just wanted you to kind of get a visual. Hang on a second. We've got to share the screen again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in the software. Make this screen a little bit bigger here. And I'm going to show you guys a few people that have different graphs that have more of a definitive change in the natural and adaptive. So if you look over here, we see Lindsay, she's a new taker, ICS, she's got a pretty definitive change in her graph. The way this graph works, there's not a huge change, but the letters change just a little bit. What we're basically diving into today, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when your adaptive graph changes at work and how tension can be incorporated with personalities. So I'm going to skip around a little bit. Here's another, like an ISIS, what you see is what you get. Here's a CSC and an ISC. Here's someone, Clinton Alexander, who, if you can look here, again, there's not a lot of change, but there's a little bit of change. So what we want you to see here is, as I start to move our cameras around, as you've thought about personality profiles, you've thought about self-awareness, you've thought about yourself, what's next? And I know you guys have seen this, but reminder, start to think about what style are your teammates, the people in your pod, in your group, in your sales team, in your management team, in your IT team, maybe your significant other, your manager, your candidates you're trying to apply. And then how do you work with them more effectively? How do you avoid personality conflicts? How to communicate more effectively? How do you hire differently? That's where we want you, now that you've learned DISC and you've learned the behavioral analysis, and we spent a lot of times on values and the natural and adaptive style, we're going to dive into some things about how to lead differently, how to think differently, like we've talked about, but also some things that are going to happen in your system. So we're going to jump around here, and let's talk about a topic called energy shifts. The reason I showed you guys the graphs changing and the examples we showed, there wasn't a lot of change. But when you look at your graph, it can reveal major shifts in energy and in emotion, as well as recognizing potential tensions. What that means is, a lot of us wonder where stress comes from. Stress can come from a lot of reasons. Obviously, external. When we talk about people, we have the production and the external and the values and motivations we've talked about when you look at people and the triangle of people. But so obviously stress can come from our external world. But we also can have natural stress built up inside us and we don't even know that exists. And let me explain why. When major shifts happen, you're looking for your graph, and is there a major movement of your natural and adaptive? Okay. Big 20-point shifts, if any of you have that, can cause major shifts of tension. If you don't have that, the stresses you deal with shouldn't be in your behavioral style. But what you want to always ask yourself is, if your letters change from natural to adaptive, so if you're a DI, but you change to an ID like Bailey, or if you're a CS, but you change to an IS adaptively, think about, does it make sense is the first question. Meaning a CS is introverted. It's the analytical perfectionist style. But if the IS is your natural, is when you go to work, an adaptive graph is how someone changes in a given environment, a new environment, or a competitive environment. You basically say work. Does it make sense? Can you turn into the extrovert? Can you turn into the person that gets along with everyone? But it causes you a lot of effort. It's not really who you are. And so that's the number one, does it make sense? When you go to work and you change, what you're having to do is work really hard to be someone you're not, but you can do it. Now, some of you that, it says CSCS or ID, you guys are over there kind of right now, you're going, well, that doesn't apply to me. Bear with me. I know it doesn't. But because where you guys utilize these assessments is you don't naturally adapt. What you see is what you get. But you're going to need to adapt based on different personalities you deal with, in different teammates you deal with, and understanding that if you have a low assertiveness, a low D, you may need to, naturally bring it out at some point. And if you're not aware, you can't. So does it make sense? That's where tension comes, when there's a change in your natural and adaptive behavioral style. Number two is it necessary? So going back to that analytical personality, introvert, naturally a CS, but they become an IS at work. Well, if they're in sales, sure, it's necessary. They've got to be able to bring out the gift of gab and their, the verbal and instinctive communication skills. But let's say they're an accountant and their C goes away. Well, it's something to be aware of. Is like, if my C is going down and I'm an accountant because I want everybody to like me at work, I never thought about it that way. So that's where you get into, is it necessary? And then going back, and it goes with number two, is does it benefit your situation? Some people, will say, well, when I took the assessment, I was thinking about I was at work and I wasn't thinking about I was at home. We at Profile believe that it's not, our instructions don't say to think about work or home, even though a lot of assessment companies do. We believe even if you think about at work, you begin to focus the other question on the questions, and you end up going back to just a state of who you are. So that's our personal philosophy and per our experience. So when you think about, does it benefit you or your personal situation? Let's say you're a CS at work, but you turn into a D at home. Well, that may make sense, because if you're someone that's running a household and you've got kids, maybe at work you're more of an employee, more of an engineer, more of a doer, more of a perfectionist, more of an accountant, whatever it may be. But at home, the D increases because you've got to take more of an assertive stance, running the kids around, running the household how you see fit. So these are the three questions, though, when you see shifts in your graph. If you have shifts, does it make sense? You're looking for the big shifts. That's when it really applies. I know the graphs we showed you were little shifts. It matters, but not as much as the big shifts if you have that. So where does it come from? Okay. Remember that a C style, we know it's correct, compliant, analytical. Again, we're going to do a little disc review, and then we're going to go back to the behavioral styles in a minute. And then we're going to get into the third part, which is the motivators assessment. But the C style, slow-paced, task-oriented. D style, fast-paced, task-oriented. I style, fast-paced, people-oriented. And finally, the S style, slow-paced, people-oriented. Where does the tension come from? Well, these two go together. The C and the S are more similar. They're more slow-paced. One's a little more task-oriented. One's a little more people-oriented, okay? They can work well together. A D, fast-paced, task-oriented, fast-paced, people-oriented, okay? There's not a lot of tension between these two styles. Let me go back here. Oh, I went backwards on my buttons. But when you start to go polar opposite, when you start to go from fast-paced, task-oriented to slow-paced, task-oriented, those can actually jive well together as well, okay? Because a couple things are changing, but there's still similarities. There's still synergy. There's still a mesh between the behavioral styles. But notice when it goes into the opposite. People ask us all the time, what personality styles conflict the most? Well, a D, who is very fast-paced, task-oriented, working with an S, slow-paced, people-oriented, they're very different. And so you could have internal tension, as we mentioned, that's stress, and that happens based on maybe my personality style is different, or I have a major shift in my natural and adaptive. That can cause stress, tension. But it also, that's internal tension. This is external tension. What's external tension? Well, external is I go to work every day, and Shaylin's more of a D and I'm more of an S. Well, we're very opposite. And so if she is going so fast and I'm used to working at a certain pace, it causes me stress as the S style. But she doesn't know that if you don't have the assessment tool. And vice versa. If Shaylin's more of a C, I'm more of an I, well, she's working more slow-paced, methodically, but getting things done. And I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about the party we went to last night, the Christmas party coming up. And I'm still doing my work, but I'm done with my work. It's over. Shaylin, don't you want to talk? And no, she does not want to talk with me. So, but that's where external tension comes from. So it's internal and external tension is what you've got to pay attention to. And to give it more context, internal tension is within one individual with conflicting styles. So when you change on the natural and adaptive graph, the external tension is between two individuals with conflicting styles, as we just demonstrated. So a different way to think about how personality styles can work together more naturally, or that they have to work harder to work. And think about, we talked about what's next. Think about your significant other. Think about friends from your past. Think about coworkers. Think about people you're trying to hire. Does the personality tensions, the behavioral tensions, where are they coming from? Do they get in the way of us being effective every day? Okay. What's in play? So each dominant emotion comes into play on the spectrum from low to high. What does that mean? It means that live on the first letter. So if one person is, you could be a DI and a C, or you could be an SC and an I, live on the first letter. Those are where those dominant emotions, that's really who the person is. And that's where you should pay attention, because what happens is we start to think about, well, my combination of an SC and an I, I'm confused. No, don't. What we're trying to use is we drill very deeply with the assessment tool we have because of the way it scores. If someone's energy level is above a 50, well, we can show all 3 letters or 2 letters, where other disc companies don't necessarily do that. This allows us to show combinations, but when you're learning about stress and you're learning about tension, internal and external, live on the first letter to define where those things may be coming from, okay? Let's talk about behavioral needs, thinking about yourself and thinking about other people you may look at. If you're overextended, okay, an overextended graph is if you saw someone's assessment, and some of you guys may use DISC with another vendor, and that's fine. Look at someone, if they measure it 0 to 50 or 0 to 100, does somebody's graph, DIS or C, is it up there in like a 90 to 100 or a 40 to a 50, depending on how they score? Everybody does it a little differently. Meaning, is it high in the final, top 10%? What that means is that person is going to live on that DIS or C. That's where they have a hard time adapting, because that's the tool, the behavioral tool they use naturally. If you're underextended, which it is an intensity level of 10 to 0, so someone can be a D, a 2. Well, that means they're going to really have a hard time basically being assertive. If your C is at a 2, it means you don't love data and information. You're going to be more of an emotional decision maker. But it's an extreme behavioral style. And as you look at your graphs, do your graphs show that? It's not bad or it's not good. It just means, hey, you want to pay attention to those extreme styles and the behavioral needs that come with those extreme styles. If I'm a D at 90 to 100, I need you guys or my coworkers to really live on what the behavioral needs are for that DIS or C style. Meaning the D needs bullets. The D needs to be communicated with directly. Confrontation is going to be a part of them, and people have to adjust and understand that, and so on and so forth. Is understanding the different needs each style has. And then also flip it on the underextended. If someone's eye's really low, but you just ask them to be a public speaker and be on your YouTube videos, they're going to have tension because it's not natural to them and they have a hard time adapting, okay? There are behavioral needs associated with each extension of the personality assessment. So this is a good graph to show you guys, this when our scoring DIS and C is, notice the D style is around a 20. In our consulting, it's not a bad thing. This person can break out and be task-oriented and be assertive. It's harder for them, but it's not, they can do it. If it's down here below the 10, it's really hard for them. This person, if you look at their score, they're really an I and an S naturally. So that I is a huge, almost 90 to 100. This is going to be an extroverted, talkative, fun personality in his or her way, shape, and form. But look at the huge energy drop here. If you look at that S, it's above the 50, so she'd be labeled an I and an S. Gets along with everybody. But she goes to work, that S goes away. So she's going to be all I. Much faster paced, much more verbal, much more task-oriented, meaning a lot of things going at once is what you'd anticipate with this style. But her C is above the 50 as well. So I said IS, throw the C in there as well. Data orientation for this person is good, it's strong, and it actually goes up at work. But the stability and the team orientation, she probably likes to work more individually but she'll bring a lot of detail to the table. So that's what you want to pay attention to, are those different energy shifts. Are they overextended or are they underextended as you work with yours and as you look at those things, okay? I'm going to do one more communication style, then we're going to go to the motivators, and then we're going to end with a game this afternoon. Make sure everybody's going to need their phone So if you have your phone, we're going to play a game on your phone here in a minute. Behavioral needs. We talked about communication. So behavioral needs is I need to be spoken to a certain way. Shaylin is more effective if she's spoken to a certain way. And then flip it. If there's certain ways you speak to me that are my dominant fears, or I don't need to be spoken to, or don't need to be communicated with, it can be a problem. That's why you use a tool. A D needs to be communicated with, be brief and to the point. Ask what, not how questions, and just talk about results. Don't talk about problems with a D. Talk about how we're going to solve the problem. Don't ramble and repeat. Don't focus on problems. Don't be too sociable because they want to get stuff done before they have fun. D's, like a D and an I style, they want to have fun, but they want to get stuff done first. And don't be too general. Get to the point. How to communicate with an I. Let them talk about their ideas. They are good with ideas. They share testimonials. And allow for social time. Social time, what's that mean? It means, in our morning meetings, Shayla and I both have a pretty high I. We like to talk. We like to have fun. We like to talk about, we've got some other people we work with and learn about them. But then we all, once that's passed, it's like, all right, the D kicks back in, let's get things done. But it's important to work with an I. You want to allow for that time a little bit. And a story with that is I had a client, the University of Iowa, they had a high I as one of their assistant coaches on the football team. And the offensive coordinator, who was the guy that calls the plays, said he called it Jerry time. And every morning when they met, he knew Jerry was going to talk about the game and have fun and talk about just different things in life or what he read in the news. And he thought it was great because it loosened the meeting up. It got everybody kind of flowing into the morning versus maybe somebody was up late with a kid or stressed about, buying a new house or whatever it may be. He loosened the group up, but he also had to bring Jerry back in. Like, hey, Jerry, we got to go to work now. So you guys can do it in your own way. With the I, they need to talk. They want to talk. Don't let them do some of the talking. Don't ignore their ideas and don't tell them what to do because it's more of you want to do it with them because they are good at leading and getting out in front and doing things on their own. The S style, how to communicate with the S style. Show a genuine interest in them. When you talk with an S, if you're not sincere, they can spot you a mile away. Be sincere with an S. If you're all task, if you're all fun, and it's never about them, they can see it. And I'll tell you a story with that. We have a manufacturing client out in Virginia. And they hired a new floor manager and all the hourly guys that run all the machines. There was a big uproar. And one of the things in manufacturing is if your scrap metal is high at the end of the month, it's bad. You're losing money. Their scrap metal was really high. And so I went in as a consultant to say, why is this so high? And as I met with the hourly employees, they said, and a lot of them were the I and the S style, people oriented. They had a D and a C manager, and he was new. He never asked them about them. He never talked to them personally. It was always about the task. And so they would say, yes, sir, and they would walk away, and they wouldn't do their work. But all of these employees were so valuable to the company because they knew how to work the machines. But this guy was never sincere with them. And they never got, and their company had a lot of problems because of communication problems. That's real. Tell them their role. Define procedures in their role. They want to know where you need them. Sometimes if you're a D and an I style, you go, well, you should just know your role. I do it. Well, remember the rule. You'll never see another person as they are before you see them as you are. Actually, not so much. These styles want to know exactly what to do. And they're not mad about it. They're just like, tell me and I'll do it. But if they don't know structure and clarity, back to that Google case study, structure and clarity isn't there, you can have problems. Give them some time to adjust as well. They want to think things through so they can build their plan. But don't be pushy. Don't be aggressive. Don't be demanding. Be sincere and genuine with them, and these guys knock it out of the park. And finally, the C style. Prepare your case in advance if you want to communicate with a C style. Have all your data in detail when you walk into the meeting. So if your boss is a C and you have a meeting with your boss, have it ready to go. Make sure your data is accurate. And be specific as you explain things. If you're general and you talk about, hey, we could do this or we could do that, a C style can't see that. They want to know precision. Where did you get your answers? How's the formula, and then how does it all add up to equate to this job being done the right way? Don't explain don't refuse to explain the details, and don't answer questions vaguely. They really want you to be specific and to the point. C's and D's are a lot alike with that. They want you to get to it. So we're going to talk about motivations, and let's go to the third part of your assessment. So what I'm going to do here is, if you guys remember the third assessment, and I'd say around page 16 of your report, you're going to see a page that looks like this. It's going to have 7 new blue graphs. You've learned DISC, and in every one of these Tippy Connect meetings, we have reiterated or reinforced the DISC assessment because so many of you are used to it. You've used it before. Some of you use it in consulting or working or hiring or team building. But back to where Profile is different, we just believe you need a little bit more. What if, those of you that know DISC, and I'm going to open up the chat room here and make sure we can ask questions. Hang on a second. One second, everyone. What if you could see an I personality style, who we know is the parrot, who we know is fun, who we know is extroverted, but we told you that they really don't want to be seen. They don't want to be out in front. They're not motivated to do that. Well, that would go against what DISC teaches. This third assessment, called motivations, is actually can show you that, because those people exist. What if we were to show you a C style, who's correct and analytical, and we as DISC consultants, everybody teaches, they love data, they love information, they want to learn. They're the best problem solvers. What if we showed you a C that didn't really love learning? They exist. What if we showed you a D personality style? That's everybody teaches in DISC land, corporations, consultants all over the country. These are dominant, direct, decisive. They love and they're driven to lead other people. They're great at the 40,000-foot view. What if we showed you a D style that is not motivated to lead? These people exist. And what we've learned through the years is DISC has holes in it. So what I want to do right now is walk through how the third assessment can actually refine your view and understanding of people. By taking the DISC assessment and understanding behavior is, yes, we're going to get this type of behavior naturally, this type of behavior adaptively. These are the core values, 5 of 28 that he or she chose. These things matter to the person more so than everything. But then there's these 7 new categories, and they actually color in the lines of the person to really help organizations understand each other, what we believe, more defined than anywhere else. So let's look at that. All you guys care about with that third assessment, and go ahead and go to page 16-ish of your report, depending, is you care about if something's high, which is a lot of blue on the graph, low, which is a little bit of blue, or baseline. Baseline is the average per se. It means the person can go either way. Someone that's high or has a high score, it just means something. Someone that has a low score, it just means something. And then baseline means the person can go either way. And these are the categories: imagination, competition, and drive. We call it drive, and I'll explain how it equates to competition, but we're teaching here today. Self-interest, power, humanity, authority, and expertise. Okay? I'm going to open this up here. There we go. We got some questions coming in, so I'm going to put those over here. We see some people with some large shifts. All right, that's good. All right, so let's go to what this means. So in this category, this person is labeled high in her imagination. So 0 to 100 is scored again, and it's not very far. It's a 51 over a 50, but she's still high. If you're high in imagination, okay, it means you're the type of person that is extremely self-expressive. You think creatively. Your ideas are sometimes alternative. It can be great if you're trying to build a product to change your company. Let's say your company, you're in manufacturing, they say, hey, we want to build a product that that impacts the automotive industry that's never been done before. Well, high imagination people are awesome at that. The Wright brothers invented the airplane. People told them that would never happen. You can't fly. Well, high imagination people say, yeah, you can. Thomas Edison, the light bulb, he was high imagination. He said, yeah, we're going to have light, electricity. Other people said you can't. That's what's great about high imagination. Low imagination means you're very feet on the ground. You're very 1 + 1 = 2. Think of like a C personality style in a way where it's very matter of fact. If it doesn't make sense, we're not going to do it. I'm not into changing the world. I want to live on what makes sense, what's real in my eyes. And so it can be great for in certain industries because we're not trying to change the world. We're more about processes and people and running a business. But the high imagination people, they're so good with self-expression and being abstract in their thinking. So it's the hardest of the 7 to understand. If your baseline, which this person is really close, she's almost 50, she can go either way. But when it's really high up there, know the person, and if yours is high, you can think very creatively, innovatively in your world. Might even be like you're a musician. It might even be you're an artist. High imagination people that are artists and musicians in those worlds, that's what they usually score. So then we get to this category, drive. So low drive doesn't mean that this person's not motivated, okay, by any means. What this category does, if you remember the values assessment, competition is a value. We want to measure and see how driven people are to compete, win or lose. This brings in a new facet of I want more in life. If I'm really high, I'm driven by money. I'm driven by, I want a return on my time invested. Shaylin and I go to work every day. We work hard. You know, it's really a motivator for us if we're high to want a paycheck that equates to that work. But some people out there, and this person is they're lower in drive. They're motivated in other categories versus money and return on time invested. So another tricky one. But let's say everybody thinks the D personality style is driven to want more. The I personality style is I'm going to lead people to victory. But low drive says, you know what? I am that personality, but I'm not really motivated by leading others or wanting more in life or driven by money. This says I'm pretty content where I am, and that's okay. He or she likes their job. It's other things over here we're getting to that lead to the motivations. Self-interest. We talked about that I style that maybe doesn't want to be seen or maybe really, naturally wants to be seen. That's what self-interest is. She is baseline here. And so notice there's one sentence with each of these. There's actually a full page in your report that talks about each of these categories. But self-interest, to read the sentence, you can both lead and follow and can be flexible between taking and standing or sitting quietly. What that means is if you're high in self-interest, you like to be seen, you like to be out in front. It's a motivator for you to be out in front. So some people think C's are introverts. Well, a lot of them are. But what if I showed you a C with high self-interest? It means I may not be able to verbally speak as well because I'm thinking, I'm analyzing, but inside I'm motivated to actually lead people. Well, as a manager, as a leader of a company, you can say, hey, listen, naturally, this isn't going to be easy for you to lead a group. But if you're aware that the verbal side is where you've got to get better, you're motivated to do it, you can do it. And that's what happens. If you're low in self-interest, those people like to be behind the cloak. They like to be behind the curtain. They don't mind sitting in their cubicle or working from home. They're not motivated to be out in front. Power. So baseline here. This person can go either way with power. High power means I want to lead other people. Shaylin and I both have higher power on our score. We get motivated to do things like this. It's exciting to us. We've both coached sports before. We get motivated to lead other people in our own way. It could be as a manager. It could be as a school teacher. It could be as a sports coach. It could be as someone, volunteering at your church. But high power says, I want to lead people. If you're low power, doesn't mean you can't lead people. It just means, again, you're not motivated to do it. There's other categories. So you could be low power, but maybe high drive. So I'm going to lead people. I'm not motivated, but I'm really motivated by return and money. So I figure out how to lead people because that's part of the job, even though it's not my biggest motivator, it's more the money side. That's how these graphs work, is how do they, what's high, what's low, what stands out. Low power, it just means they like to be a lot of times a part of a team or work independently. So that D style that everybody thinks wants to lead others, if they're a low power, that D is still aggressive and dominant and can be abrasive, but they probably like to work by themselves in many instances. Humanity, if you're high in humanity, it means you care about other people. You want to help others, even at the expense of yourself. If you're low on humanity, it doesn't mean you kick puppies, okay? It just means that person's going to have a shorter fuse for people that don't pull their weight. A lower humanity boss or COO, they're going to be easier to let people go. Those are the people you want in the room if you've got to fire somebody. High humanity, they don't want to do it. It's hard for them because they care so much about people. So you could be, we have a lot of sport coaches, basketball, football, golf, tennis. They're high in power, but they're also high in humanity. Well, it kind of makes sense. They're motivated to lead people, but they're also motivated to help people. But the graphs can change. Last two on motivators, as you look at your report. Low authority or high authority. Authority is, I follow rules, to keep it simple. We're going to take it a little further in a minute. The higher the authority, the more I follow rules to the letter of the law. If I'm low authority, it's more, I follow rules more to the spirit of the law. So does it mean that low authority, that they rob banks? No. All of us behaviorally, okay, we all have a level of protection. So even though we're low authority, we don't love rules necessarily, we like to live in the gray, it's still, we're not going to blow up our lives, or we're not going to do things that, that jeopardize our jobs and our security, but we may be a little more risky than other style. If you're high in authority, okay, you're a rule follower, great. But many times you can judge or look around the room, and if people don't do it like you do it, you see the world your way only at times because there's only one way, to follow the rules. So authority can be tricky because there's some obviously great to both. There's high authority, and then like low authority, think about salespeople. You probably want them a little lower authority so they can live in the gray and figure out, depending on what you sell, to get to decision makers and things like that. But it can be a detriment and a curse is the way high and low authority works. Usually high authority means I believe in something, I have beliefs, and I see them this way, and those are the rules I abide by, those to the letter of the law. Finding expertise. If you're high in expertise, it means you have a curiosity to learn. You want to learn everything. And that's where I can show you, the assessment can show you a C style. You would think that all C's would have a high expertise. This is the motivation to learn everything. The lower the expertise, it's more of functional thinking. I want to know the process it takes to solve the problem. Let's say there's a test, and there's 5 chapters in the test in history, and Shaylin and I are both students. Well, if Shaylin is high expertise, she wants to learn everything, and she's going to shoot for that A+ and learn everything that she can in those 5 chapters. If I'm low expertise, I'm like, maybe I can cram for the test. B+ is okay. And I'm going to do the Cliff Notes versions. And hey, Shayla, can I see your notes? You mind? She's probably not going to let me see them. But that's more of the expertise. So you could be a C that loves data and information, okay, or an S that loves to learn as well, but you can be more process and functional in your thinking with lower expertise. So you're looking again, as you look at yourself, what are the DISC first letter, the behavioral style? That's me naturally. What do those 5 values speak to me? What do they say to me that I see? And how would I summarize them if I had to talk about myself or someone else? And then, does this align with DISC? Are you an I style that has high power, high self-interest? Well, that would make a lot of sense. But if you're a C style with low authority and low expertise, well, it's a person that C's usually follow rules, but maybe they're not as motivated to follow rules based on their nurturing or their nature. Okay, so I probably just muddied the water with everybody as you learned about DISC, but that's the whole point, is Disc has been around since 1928. So many people love it. It's, you know, we've been working a lot more lately with consultants like us to give them and help them use the software to facilitate Disc. And we see it all the time. Someone said to us yesterday, as a consultant in Boulder, Colorado, they said, your assessment software is kind of bringing Disc into 2020. That's not a boastful statement. It's to say Disc has been going on so long, not a lot of people have pushed that envelope with that assessment. Our goal is to be a thought leader with the Disc assessment. And it's awesome. It's powerful. Everybody, you wouldn't be on this call if you didn't believe in it, but we think it has more and needs more. And so a lot of what we just talked about, you guys are welcome to fire some of your questions over here into the chat. And then, hold on a second here. Shaylin's reminding me into this. Okay. All right. So we're going to bring that up. We are got about 15, 20 minutes left. We're going to go and see what you guys have done with, and what you've learned with Disc. So bear with me. I'm going to move some things around on our screen. And what I want you guys to do is we're going to end with a Kahoot before our final session. And if you haven't played Kahoot before, you're going to go to your phone and you're going to type in kahoot.it, correct?
Or you can put it on your computer as well.
Oh yeah, you can do it on your computer and just have a bigger screen. So she hates when I put her on the spot, but I'm going to a little bit. Walk everybody through. It's kahoot.it.
Yeah.
What else can they do?
So you can do it on a phone, a tablet, a computer, anything with a web browser. You can go to www.kahoot.it, and then you're going to type in that game pin that it says right there at the top, and it's going to prompt you to put in some nickname or your name. And as we kind of go through that, your name will pop up. And then once we see, I think there's 19 of you guys in. Once we see 19 names, we'll go ahead and start the game.
All right, Trent's in. Hip Hill's in. Love the name. I would have been Green Hornet if I was playing. Just saying.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Green Hornet? I'll tell you the story about it later.
You put that as your side name.
As these guys roll in, I'll tell that story. I had a buddy in high school that anytime we went to eat and they took your name, he would tell them his name was Green Hornet.
I never use my name.
What do you use your name?
I usually say my name's hard to spell. And
You're right.
so
Shaylin.
name I usually say like Amber.
Just to keep it simple.
Yeah.
See, we'd like to have a little fun here. We got some questions popping in here too. Tommy, what are resources and recommendations to address areas of improvement? Broad question. In the assessment, Tommy, did you take the assessment, by the way? Do you have a copy of the report? Rebecca just mentioned there's 21.
Yeah.
So I think we're good. We're going to keep you guys 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 12. Tommy, if you took the assessment, there is actually a page that says areas for improvement. For you personally, that's a great page to use that's populated. But then I would basically say, as far as wanting to get better at your behavioral style, anything you can read on Disc, there's a ton of stuff on the internet, and just be direct with your Google search. It would be, I'm a high I style. How do eyes improve? And so maybe you're really verbal, but you didn't know you were verbal. Or maybe you're scattered and you have a lot of things going at once. Well, you're good at it, but maybe you don't push things through the finish line. Based on your personality style, we get really specific on areas where you can improve. So we've got 13 people. I think for the sake of time, we're going to start this, okay? Shaylin, you want to use my computer? I can just do it? All right, so she's going to start. Tell me what to push here. I'm going to move all this stuff down, move our video down, and hit start. That's why. Everybody ready? So kind of give them.
You can join in. It's still going to have the pin at the top if you're joining in late. So don't worry about that.
But this question comes on pretty fast, correct? So get ready, and then the way this thing is scored is the person that is the right answer, but also the fastest to answer. All right, so 3, 2, 1, here we go. All right, that is my 3, 2, 1. I'll have you read it out loud.
Okay. Get to the point, consider bold ideas, and avoid being too analytical. Speaks to what style?
What letter would get to the point, consider bold ideas, and avoid being too analytical? Speaks to what style? Let's see here. We got 12 answers. Am I covering up? We got a lot of screens open here.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Okay. So we got a little timer over here. It's going to short. All right. Most everybody got 8. Go ahead and chime in.
Yeah, we got the D style. So remember, they are task oriented and they're fast paced. They don't, I guess, enjoy a lot of time being spent talking. So you got to be right, be bold, be gone. And they don't really care too much about the details. So that's why the D style is the correct answer.
All right. Next question. So here's your scoring, by the way. Sydney, CJA, Haley. And you know what? One of the things we weren't sure, Shaylin brought this up. In the chat room, you guys are welcome to talk a little trash to each other, okay? Because we can't be together on this thing. So you're welcome to chime in there and have a little fun. All right, question 2.
What best describes how an S style would communicate? So remember, S styles are very patient and caring people. So try to keep that in mind when answering your question.
19 seconds. Shoot time up.
So if you want to pull up the chat or whatever, just in case.
Yep.
So you can see, yeah, perfect.
Does that cover them up? Okay. All right. Most everybody got that one.
Perfect. Absolutely. That's pretty self-explanatory, soft-spoken, creates stability. They're empathetic. They're very empathetic style, so they're great listeners. They want to know all the details and kind of be as caring as possible.
Perfect. All right. Let's see if Sydney got passed. Who was that? I got to move my screen again. CJA. Here we go.
How would an I style pack for a vacation? They're fast-paced. They're fun. They're kind of scattered.
They're coming in. They're coming in. Just skip the question. Ooh, got a lot of. Go ahead, Shayla.
You know what? That's pretty close. I could see why blue might be an answer. Because eyes do like for people one to like them. So bringing gifts home would be a good idea. But since they're so scatterbrained, last minute more what they like than what they need. That seems more like an I style just because they want to have a good time. They're not thinking. I wouldn't say not logically, but they're not going to be as prepared as maybe some other styles.
And when we teach this, like some of you guys have like the S and the C. An IS and a C, they probably are blue. But a pure I, no other letters, that's why we're teaching on the first letter, trying to teach you guys the baseline of this stuff. All right. Some people moving up. Cassie's moving up. Awesome's moving up.
This is what style tends to communicate in an organized and logical ways. So graphs, charts, lists. Will come in fast. Beautiful. It's a C style. That analytical, they love the details. Very detail oriented. So graphs, charts, anything organized fits well with their style.
Nice. Anybody moving up? Cassie's on fire though. Still staying. Still staying.
Which style is more concerned about a damaged relationship? So that could be friendship, romantic relationship, maybe a relationship with your boss, any type of, I guess, connection with someone. What are they concerned? Which ones are concerned with that? I love this question because it's both I and S are both right. Remember, they are people oriented. So I's are more like friends. Why don't they like me? I want everyone to have a good time. And S's are more like family. I'm trying to keep the peace. They're the glue that holds things together.
D's and C's, work on your empathy. Come on, people. All right, Hip Hill, come up, move up the chart. Cassie, you lost your fire. No offense, no offense.
What style would make the best leader? Now, this is a poll. So we like to use this question in terms of the communication spot in this. So there's no correct answer, but we'd like to see what you guys think.
11. All right. Notice the difference.
Yeah, so it's a little spread out. This would be a time if we were all together, obviously, we could talk about it. If anyone wants to feel free to, kind of go in the chat and say why you chose what you chose. I think this is a good way to see how different styles can be successful in being a leader, and there's different qualities that people are looking for.
I mean, I think when we did this last time, Shayla and I did a program, it might have even been with the chamber. We did a program with Rebecca and her team. I don't think anybody chose D at all. Maybe one person.
That was Georgia.
Oh, was it Georgia? Okay,
Georgia
sorry.
was
University of
basketball.
Georgia. We did a program with them. Nobody chose D. This changes. In fact, and I did this with somebody the other night, just on one-on-one with a COO of a company. He chose C all day long. This group didn't. Teach their own. But it's the stuff you want to talk about. It's the stuff you want to, when you're aware, you can bring that up. I need more D. You could be an I style and, hey, I need a C boss to keep me in line, but I'm good at these other things. Rebecca, I like it. I chose D because as an I appreciate the confidence even in the instability. It's good.
So this one's another poll. What style would make the best coworker or teammate? Again, this is going to be different based on your job, based on you personally. Which one do you think what kind of person would you want next to you to get a job done? Again, feel free to go into the chat. Let us know why you chose what you chose. S and I. Beautiful. I like that. S's, again, we like to say that they're the glue. They hold everything together. And they're very hardworking, great role players. Give them a job and they do it well. I's are great. Maybe you like someone next to you. That's fun. I's love to keep the room alive. They get their energy from people. So I can see both of those being great teamwork or teammates.
Shayla and I both need C's. So we've got some software guys here and they're awesome. So I'm answering C because we need the details. So I mean, it depends, like you said, depends on your industry.
So back to the questions. If you're in a conflict with the D style, you'll do best by which one? So remember how D styles often communicate very short, they're very blunt. And sometimes it's a little abrasive for some styles that are a little bit softer. Soft. Might be bad, but
It's okay. I mean, it is. It's these guys, these like confrontation.
they do. Absolutely. Just from personal experience, I deal with the D style, not Chad. D style every day. That is very blunt in the way that she speaks, and you kind of just have to brush it off and understand that that's just her personality. She's not trying to be a jerk. That's just how she comes off. So yeah, definitely avoid taking her blunt approach personally.
But going back to blind spots, that term blind spot, that's the blind spot for a D. They just don't even know they're doing it. That's where awareness is huge. All right.
Well,
Sydney, back on top. Here we go.
Steve is a freelance painter that specializes in abstract art. What are 2 motivators he could have?
So we're just getting away from DISC here, going to motivators. Remember that third assessment we just taught you guys. Remember what's it? Imagination, expertise, power.
This one might be a little tough because I know you guys just learned it. Go ahead and give it your best shot.
Dang, nice
All
job,
right.
people.
Yep, high imagination, very expressive. So low drive kind of comes into play because a freelance painter probably isn't going to make a lot of money. They cannot be motivated by money because it's such a hardworking industry that, they're not going to receive that. So they can't be motivated by the money, just be motivated by the need to be expressive.
Perfect.
Nice.
Sydney still. AJ's chasing hip hill. Here we go. Cassie, what happened to that flame?
Which motivators work cohesively with the C style? So as a C, we think about what they're big on, knowledge and order. So what kind of motivators fall in line with that? There you go. Expertise, right? Expertise is that desire for knowledge, and authority is your level of rule following. So those 2 kind of fit hand in hand with the C style.
Doesn't always go, but they do. Back to tensions. Remember the beginning, tensions and things that fit, that's what fits. But that's not always there. Sydney, Cassie came back. Hip hill, come on, Haley.
When looking at the motivators section, which motivators matter the most? So if I'm looking at your body of 7 motivators, which ones tell me what your main motivators are? That's a hard question.
This is the hardest question probably on the whole deal.
Yeah, this is hard.
I blame Shaylin. She it was good though. I'm kidding. It's good.
There
Oh,
we go.
nice.
All right, this is the best group we've had. Absolutely. So the ones furthest from the average line, the ones that stand out the most are the ones that we're going to say are your main motivators.
Uh-oh, Rebecca talking a little trash with Cassie. I love it. There she comes. Uh-oh, what
Sydney
happened?
dropped.
Sydney, uh-oh, couple down. AJ is on fire.
True or false? Everyone with low humanity hates people.
Ooh.
One faster, one more. Beautiful, false. Absolutely, we know that people with low humanity, they don't hate people, they don't kick puppies, they just have that short fuse.
We say that all the time, and it's true.
I know,
It makes me
it
laugh.
just sticks, I love
That's right,
it.
it does stick. Uh-oh, everybody
There we
moves up
go.
there. Everybody moves up. Staying with time. Couple minutes left
Which
here.
motivators work cohesively with the I style. So same thing with the C's. I like to be out front. I like to be seen. I like to be extroverted. So which motivators do you think would go hand in hand with the I? So this one's a little bit of a trick. See, no one answered your questions. Chad made me put drive and power as an answer. But the real answer, I think, is self-interest and imagination. So being expressive, being seen, being unique, that definitely sticks to an I style.
Eyes want to lead, though, so that's where it can be confusing. Even we teach this stuff; we've been doing it; it's our job. But some eyes really driven by eyes. So Shaylin wins again. Yeah, I know. I keep losing.
What's new? There's a couple more here, guys.
Sydney and Haley are trending up, but AJA is still winning.
What disc style falls in line with these values? Order, wisdom, responsibility, achievement, and personal development. Remember, we're looking at the body of 5.
So now we're going to that middle values assessment.
C style. So sometimes not all 5 will line up, but the ones that the key gives away were order, wisdom, and personal development. Remember, C's are task oriented. They like their things in, I guess, organized manner, and they want that knowledge. So those 3 kind of give it away for it to be a C style.
Only 171 points from taking your spot at Hip Hill. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. See, I said AJA, it's CJA.
In the values assessment, how can you determine who is the most competitive? This one's tough. But yeah, give it your best shot. I like to see what people think.
A lot of organizations want to know how competitive someone is. It can be good, it can be bad, depending on the job. Good one, good balance. But
So, I was going to say, we want to remember that any style, right? You guys had a little bit of a spray for the best styles, or each style is going to be the best leader, right? So in the same aspect, any style can be competitive. That's why blue and yellow aren't the right answer. So the green is the right answer. Competitiveness as a top 5 value with other given values. So achievement, personal development, economic security, anything like that that shows that they want more is going to help us determine who's going to be the most competitive.
And we're winding down here, guys. I want to address the blue real quick because the blue is the second highest answer. That's what the world of DISC consultants teach. A lot of times they teach this D&I style. And I'm telling you, I got a lot of pushback early on from our sports clients. And I'm talking about the Purdue athletic staff, the Purdue basketball team, to Miami, to Ohio State, clients we worked with early. And they said, we've got this guy, he's really introverted, but man, he's still pretty competitive. And that's what we learned, is everybody assumes the D&I are more competitive, in obviously if they had those values. But we've learned there are people that just can't expressively show you that verbal, vocal, and visually, but deep down, they are driven as heck.
And then we got one more question. This will be the last one.
We're going over our time a little bit.
What DISC style falls in line with these values? Recognition, creativity, personal development, involvement, and fame.
That one goes fast.
Yeah, this one, there's a couple that really pointed out.
Somebody had to go back to work. We could have a problem. Nope, we got it.
There we go. I saw absolutely the fame, the creativity, the recognition. Those are those big green lights going towards the I style. So
And I believe this is the final.
this is it. Sydney, third place.
Sydney won it? Oh, she's
Yep,
third place.
Cassie came up.
Dun, dun, dun. CJA. Can you type your full name on the chat for us, CJA? Clinton Alexander. Not quite enough, Cassie. I love it. I love it. It's all in good fun. Nice. It's all in good fun. Nice job, guys. we are winding down. Some of you are obviously going back to work. We want to make sure we say thanks again for having us these afternoons. And this goes so fast. Like, there's so many things we could talk about, and we want to keep going with you guys. But next week's is the last. Actually, I'm sorry, Rebecca, you're probably right. It's 2 weeks. We have 1 week off. Then we are going to do a final session focused on leadership, how you lead, how to take all of this and apply it. And we hope you'll join us again and bring anybody else that may not have attended. Fill out the poll, and I think, Rebecca, I'll turn it over to you. Hopefully, it went fast, but we appreciate everybody's participation. That was fun, and thank you again for being here.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for being here. Chad, thanks so much for continuing our leadership series and ending on a high note. We did have a couple questions come up, so I'll give you about 60 seconds to answer this one. Haley said that she scored high on her self-interest, but she doesn't like to be in the lead or the spotlight. 60 seconds, what do you think's going on there?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You might be somebody that's just unique and likes to stand out. You could be someone that in your own way, maybe you like to dress flamboyantly. Maybe you wear your hair a certain way. Maybe you like to be unique in your own way. So sometimes, a lot of times they're motivated to be out in front, but maybe you're more of a C and the S personality style, which I'm curious if you are. That's a more introverted personality style, but then high self-interest would mean they still want to be unique. So in your own way. So that's where I would focus there, and shoot us an email if you're not 100% sure. And if I'm still off, we can talk about it. But that's I'm guessing, I'm hoping, I think we're in that. There you go. Yep. CS. We're in the ballpark there. Cool.
Perfect. And then Sydney asked, I'll give you 15 seconds to answer this one. Are the averages on the drive assessments based on USA participants?
Oh, great question. Never had that question before. We only have a few outside of the United States. So I don't really have an answer for that, but I could find out. So 99% of the people we work with are in the United States. We have a couple sports teams that recruit New Zealand, Australia. So we've had a few of that, but I've never heard that. So I'm curious, and I'll look into it. So shoot me an email and I'll get you a confirmed answer, because we have our partner out in California. We do thousands, they do millions of these assessments. So love to answer that more definitively. Good question.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I know I've learned a lot. I love engaging with all of you guys. A little bit of motivational trash talk in the chat.
That's awesome.
I want to thank our series sponsor, Duke Energy, again for supporting our young professionals. Chad was correct. We're skipping next week, the 22nd, and we will be resuming our final, putting everything together on the 29th. Everyone is welcome to join us on the 22nd for our Top 10 Under 40 panel at Walt's Pub and Grill on the west side. There will be an invitation in the follow-up email, as well as a link to this recorded session if you wanted to touch up, or if you know someone who missed it, you can send them the link as well. Go lead confidently with your new knowledge, and Clinton, Cassie, and Sydney, hold your heads high today. Go buy a lottery ticket. You're obviously lucky today, so you did great. And have a fantastic Thursday. That's all I got.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, everybody.